And welcome into the War Squared Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm Tom. This is Doc. Seth's sitting over there off camera. We're going to do the NFL draft recap. Who won the draft, Doc?
Well, the Jets. The Jets came out with 3 impact players. Well, really 4. You're 100% right. I was going to say in the first round, but I didn't get there because I started looking to see what Seth was doing. They really got 4 impact players. They got a impact defensive lineman, impact defensive back, an impact offensive lineman, and what I think is probably going to be the most beneficial fantasy player this year, even though he went to the Jets and not to the Bills like we'd hoped, in Breece Hall.
I'm glad you brought that up. I think we get to that in segment 3 on the most impactful fantasy players. That'll be a great discussion there. I had the Jets as my top team. They arguably got the best cornerback in Sauce Gardner. They arguably got the best wide receiver in Garrett Wilson.
Depending upon the health of Jameson Williams, yes.
Yes, so he's definitely the best healthy wide receiver.
He's the top-rated healthy wide receiver. We'll see production-wise where some of the other guys come in, because some of the wide receivers might have been in better positions as far as teams that
they went to, quarterbacks they went to,
yeah,
and
but
whatever.
In 5 years from now, we're going to be looking at this draft going that Washington got everything they needed to be able to take a big step forward. Probably not this year, but probably more likely in 2024 as they mature.
Washington?
No, excuse me.
Jets?
Jets, I'm sorry.
Okay.
More likely in 2023 as they mature past their rookie year.
Okay, they got arguably the best running back.
There's no argument. He is the best running back.
Well, maybe not. We'll see. Maybe. Well, again, we'll see. I think he went to the wrong spot. But and then they got what may have been a top 5 talent in Jermaine Johnson.
Yeah, Jermaine Johnson was rated that high. He started falling for some reason that we're not really sure of, other than just he played at Florida State and maybe the caliber of players he played against weren't there. And also
ACC, not SEC.
Yeah. And once you get past a certain point in time, teams start looking at need rather than who's there. And that pushed him down the board some more at that point in time, because wide receivers were a huge run in the middle of the draft.
They also got the tight end out of Ohio State, who a lot of people now are kind of backtracking, saying, hey, this guy may have been the best. The thing was, why are we going to use the tight end when we have 2 outside receivers in Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave?
Hold on. And Corey Davis. Oh, in Ohio State. I'm sorry.
At Ohio State.
I misunderstood.
Right.
I cut you off too early there. Now, the second team that I had rated, just like you, I have the Ravens rated the second player. Although the Ravens have one glaring hole. They traded Marquise Brown away, and who'd they replace him with?
Nobody.
Not anybody. In Lamar text WTF, but that was because of another reason when he found out that Marcus Brown was already at the Arizona Cardinals draft party.
Right.
Just came out at the wrong time, but they have a glaring hole at wide receiver. What are they going to do?
Yeah. So the Ravens stood pat at 14, who was the highest rated player in Kyle Hamilton, the safety.
Oh yeah, they got a wonderful Baltimore player.
Right. Perfect.
Yeah.
for their system. Perfect for anybody's system.
I'm not sure he's Ed Reed, but he's going to become pretty. I think he's going to be pretty damn close.
Yeah. Like we said, they traded away Marquise Brown and then traded back and drafted Tyler Linderbaum, who's a surefire plug-and-play center.
Oh, yeah.
At 46, they grabbed David Ajabu,
who was projected to go in the top 10.
Would have went in the top 10 had he not blown out his Achilles.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, great for Baltimore. Terrell Suggs, remember, Terrell Suggs ruptured his Achilles and played later in the season.
Yeah. David Ojabo, he will play this year. It's probably going to be more likely game 5 on that he's going to start playing. He's probably going to miss the first month of the season. But he's going to play this year. And Baltimore right now, if you go to the AFC North, who's the best team?
The Bengals.
I don't disagree. Second best team?
Probably the Ravens.
Yep. Third best team?
Browns.
Fourth is the Steelers. I agree with you. Although I think Baltimore, if they're able to address their wide receiver hole, like through a Jarvis Landry, might take that next step and be the best team in the AFC North.
Okay.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. in the fourth round then, because they traded away their thirds, but in the fourth round they had 6 picks. At 110, they drafted a giant tackle, Daniel Falele. Lele,
Who'll be the starting right tackle.
who will be maybe the starting left tackle if Ronnie Stanley can't come back.
Agreed.
6'8", 384.
He is the largest player in the NFL as far as weight goes, and his brother was drafted by them last year, and he currently starts in the offensive line with them.
Wow. And then they drafted five more picks in the fourth round.
They drafted a cornerback out of Bama, a tight end out of Iowa State, a punter out of Penn State, a tight end out of Coastal Carolina, and then a cornerback out of Houston who might actually end up being the draft as a slot corner.
Right. So they have potentially drafted 9 starters.
Yes.
9 starters.
Yes. Welcome to Baltimore, where they do this every 3 or 4 years, and people go, "How do they always do this?"
And we were talking a little bit before the show, everybody, about how did you watch Saturday? So on Saturday they start going into, they've talked to the player personnel people, to the GMs. They found out what actually they did. Mm-hmm. So one of the things they found out that Baltimore had been planning for this year for 3 years, setting up contracts, not signing certain free agents, signing them at specific times so that they got the most compensatory picks this year.
Yep. And they do that because they know they're going to have to pay Lamar next year. So they can afford to pay Lamar and then be able to, 3 to 4 years from now, when they got to pay Lamar again, be able to do the exact same thing and keep the Baltimore Ravens train rolling down the tracks to playoff victories.
Yep. And then the last team that I had on here, and I haven't seen your list yet, but my last team is the Eagles. And why did the Eagles win it? Well,
A.J. Brown.
that's the number one reason why they won it.
And I still hate
2 reasons.
The other night.
2 reasons. A, they were at 15. They traded up to grab combine darling Jordan Davis, the defensive tackle that dropped 20 pounds and ran a 4.7 340 at 13, and then traded 18 for A.J. Brown, who is effectively the best player in the draft.
I can't disagree. I was dumbstruck that Tennessee traded A.J. Brown away. But in the following that, I understand exactly why they traded him away. He wanted an exorbitantly large
$25 million a year,
which was more than Tennessee was willing to pay. So Tennessee traded him, got the 18
they offered
pick
20.
And the 101.
He would have taken 22.
Yeah, but
he got 25 from the Eagles.
Yeah, and he's the only problem you have with this is one of the memes that I saw on Facebook was his role now in Philadelphia offense is the wide receiver running open why the quarterback can't find him.
Well, that's possible. I mean, but one of the reasons too.
Rich doing it.
Oh yeah, he's going to be very rich doing it.
One of the reasons that he went there too, Jalen Hurts. They are personal friends. Jalen Hurts tried to recruit him to Alabama. That didn't work. He ended up going to Ole Miss with DK. And then they've been friends ever since. Apparently, the weekend before, Jalen Hurts was at A.J. Brown's daughter's birthday party. And then, in the second round, the Eagles take, a nondescript lineman from Nebraska, former offensive line powerhouse. Then in the third round, they get Nakobe Dean,
who literally fell in their lap.
Who fell all the way to 83 when I had him going to New Orleans at 19.
I had him go in the first round, I think, to 23. But my one note from Philadelphia, why I don't have them rated, actually 2 reasons why I don't have them rated higher. One is what could have been. Because they could have drafted Breece Hall and put him in to be the plug-and-play 3-down back there and solve the rotation they have of nobody being healthy from week to week.
They already have a running back. His name's Jalen Hurts.
Yep. But with him there, it would have been a really nice pickup, especially with A.J. Brown now filling that role there. The other reason why I dropped him is in the 6th round, they drafted this guy named Kyron Johnson from Kansas. I didn't know Kansas had a football team.
Hey.
It's a requirement to funnel money because of all the money.
KU has players that get drafted and play in the league. It just happens.
Yep. I never saw him on the basketball court, though. Why are they drafting this guy?
Just about as many as play from KU in the NBA. There's only a handful.
Yep, there's only a handful. Okay, my number 3 team was, believe it or not, the Kansas City Chiefs.
I want to go back, hold on to the Eagles. Really, the whole reason that you say that it's not the Eagles is because you have bitter beer face over A.J. Brown.
Oh, no.
Let's move on. Chiefs.
I think that them adding A.J. Brown was what they added a wide receiver. They had the best wide receiver they could add going into the draft. They didn't pay exorbitantly high cost for him either.
Bitter beer face.
It just reinforces the fact being that Philadelphia is going to win the NFC East this year, but A.J. Brown's fantasy value drops some. Okay, my number 3 team, Kansas City Chiefs.
Okay, why?
They traded up and got the cornerback they wanted in Trent McDuffie. They stayed there where they were at, and they got George Karlaftis as the defensive end. Mm-hmm. They got a wide receiver in Sky Moore from Western Michigan, who's a physical specimen. They absolutely filled every need they had in order to be able to stay competitive and relevant in the AFC West.
Maybe.
Maybe.
This is one of the questions you asked me, and I'm sure it's coming up in who lost the draft for you, was what do you grade the Patriots as? Yeah. And I can't grade the Patriots on their draft picks this year. I can't.
I gave him an incomplete for the exact same reason. It's like, give Belichick the benefit of the doubt. He knows what he's doing when it comes to drafting everybody but wide receivers.
He drafted Ramondre Stevenson in the 7th round last year, and when he got on the field, he looked like LeGarrette Blount,
yep,
who was also drafted in the 7th round, by the way.
And so, with Bill Belichick, you really can't give him a draft grade because you don't know what it is, because you don't know what his plans are for the future.
As long as it's not a wide receiver,
he's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah. Now, I do think he reached on some stuff.
Yeah.
But Kansas City, going back to them, they filled every need they had from A to Z. And they did it. This year, look at what the Chiefs did this year. They got their salary cap restructured.
Yeah. I mean, Karlaftis is definitely going to be the guy they hope fills in for Frank Clark when they cut him next year.
Karlaftis is never going to be an all-pro player, but he's always going to be somewhere between 8 and 12 sacks.
Maybe.
And he's going to be there every year for the next 10 to 11 years.
Yeah, you never know.
They filled everything they needed to. They got their salary cap back under control where they can afford to sign players. This draft that Brett Veach put together was incredible because he turned chicken salad into chicken salad.
Yeah.
He did and I hate the Chiefs. People know that how much I dislike the Chiefs. But this set the Chiefs up to be competitive in the AFC West for the next 5+ years.
Okay. How are we looking there, Seth?
We got 2 minutes left.
2 minutes? Okay.
So let's go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, real quick, who lost the draft? I'll list my teams when we have to come back and get through all of them. Saints, Vikings, Bills.
I have Saints, New England, Bills.
Okay.
And New England's an incomplete. We don't know what doing. Because it's incomplete, we have no idea how to grade them, which means they very easily could have lost the draft, especially since their first-round draft pick, I saw in multiple mocks going in the 3rd round.
And here's the thing, of course, that you hear during the second and third round on Friday night's coverage that you probably don't know if all you watched was the first round, is he was the last starting caliber lineman left.
Mm-hmm.
So the rest of the guys left had potential,
mm-hmm,
but they weren't definitive starters.
Yeah,
they weren't plug and play type guys.
He's going to be an all-pro player, I think, in that system because Belichick drafts players and does this with them. Remember when we were sitting in Buffalo Wild Wings 4 years ago in the draft, and the now Las Vegas Raiders had 3 first-round draft picks. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about those, and I'm going, he might become an all-pro player, especially Colin Farrell, the 4th pick in the draft. Even if he becomes an all-pro player, it's a bad pick because they could have got somebody else with that pick or traded down, picked up more stuff, and got Colin Farrell.
For sure.
Which is what New England could have done with this draft pick, but they didn't.
Yeah, I don't think anybody was giving them the opportunity to go back where they felt that they could still get him, especially with 3 teams having 2 picks.
Would you trade with Bill Belichick? I know I wouldn't.
I wouldn't unless I had to have a quarterback. So let's hit this break real quick. We'll come back and hit the rest of our draft losers.
Keep the pest at bay. Call TNT and we'll blow them away. For pest-free home or business, you need the best. You need TNT, prompt and professional pest control with custom plans tailored just for you. Call TNT Pest Control at 209-9225.
Being in a car accident is one of the most overwhelming and terrifying experiences that you can have. You must then deal with the physical and emotional trauma caused by the accident. Spinal ligament injury is the number one leading cause of pain and disability following a car accident. If you or a loved one have had a car accident, there's a high likelihood that you've suffered spinal ligaments injury. Here at Titan Medical Center, we specialize in detection, diagnosis, and treatment of car accidents. Call us today.
And keep the pest at bay. Call TNT and we'll blow them away. For pest-free home or business, you need the best. You need TNT, prompt and professional pest control with custom plans tailored just for you. Call TNT Pest Control at 209-9225.
So we kind of jumped back in here. We talked about how Doc didn't really like the Patriots draft. I didn't like the Vikings draft, and here's why I didn't like the Vikings draft. They trade out of 12 to division rival Lions, who move up to select Jameson Williams, who is hands down the top physical wide receiver talent.
I agree.
Then they drop clear down to 32 and take Lewis Sine, who's the cornerback / safety out of Georgia. Mm-hmm. Now, granted, he was the MVP of the national championship game.
Woohoo!
But I don't know what that means.
It means that you won first place at the beauty contest because all the good-looking girls' car broke down the road.
Yeah. Okay. Then they also got 34 from the Lions. They traded down from there to let division rival and superior competitor Green Bay take Christian Watson, who we had him taken in the first round.
Yep. My note from the Vikings draft was they did a better job of strengthening their opponents' teams than they did their team. But they still have players in place to replace them and go forward with. So I don't think was it one of the bottom 3 worst drafts? No, but it was not if it was bottom 5, you'd probably be there about number 5.
What they got players that can help. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's fine. However, like you said, they made their division cohorts better.
They did a really good job of giving 2 very, very talented wide receivers to 2 teams that needed them in their own division. And the Bears are like going, what about us?
Right.
What did we do to defend you that bad?
Right. So we both hated the Saints and listed them first. Why?
Yes. They paid an extremely high price for Chris Olave to be their wide receiver. They didn't really address a lot of the depth issues that they have. Now, granted, their salary cap situation kind of keeps them in hell doing that. And next year they'll be out of salary cap hell.
Yes. Because Drew Brees' contract will finally come off.
And they can finally cut Michael Thomas without having a huge salary cap hit. So their salary cap is going to be back under control next year.
Or maybe even trade him next year.
They think they have a chance to make the playoffs this year, which is what they're pushing for, but they don't have a chance to make the playoffs because they're not talented enough to do that.
Well, they were 5-2 with Jameis.
Yep.
And they made the playoffs.
Yep, and they've got a very talented defense.
And their defense is still very good. And how many times has Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Bucks beat New Orleans in the regular season?
Not a single time.
Oh, 0 times in 2 years.
But the draft, there just was not enough.
One shutout.
There just was not enough talent drafted by them to fulfill the needs they had going forward.
So here's what they've done. They've traded this year's first, next year's first, a 2024 second, 2 thirds from this year, one was compensatory, this year's 4th, and this year's 7th. And for those draft picks, they got Chris Olave, Trevor Penning, and a 6th round pick this year.
Yeah, not enough back. Now, granted,
Chris Olave and Trevor Penning have to be all pro players for this to be worth it. All
for
pros,
this to be worth it, they
not
have to,
pro bowlers.
Chris Olave, Trevor Penning, and the 6th round draft pick and 2 undrafted free agents have to make impacts for them this year. And somebody else besides Chris Olave and Trevor Penning have to become all pro players. Not going to happen.
It's just
and if it does,
very bad.
The Saints, I'll apologize to and say you're better at this than I am, which obviously you are.
I don't think this happens if Sean Payton's there.
I agree. Now tell me, why don't you like the Bills draft?
Well, I know that you love this. I can already see the crap-eating grin. I wanted to say the other word, but I'm trying to be nice. We're sitting pretty at 25.
Mm-hmm.
All the mock drafts had him taking Breece Hall.
The board's falling perfectly to them.
The last thing they really need to set their offense off. Boom! They trade up the pick at 23. I'm like, oh my God. Why do they think that somebody's going to jump in front of them to get Breece Hall?
That's what I'm thinking too.
And they take Kaiir Elam, cornerback from Florida.
Who was the 41st rated player going into this draft by the draft quote unquote experts. They had one position
Seth,
to
play
fill.
the sounder.
They had one position to fill to ensure Super Bowl caliber this next year. One position.
Who the f*** is that guy?
That's it. Kaiir Elam?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, people, him and Lewis Sign were the two guys that I was like, who? Okay. He's the Bills' last player available with a first-round grade.
So?
I'm telling you, if anybody else saw it, if not, go search it. Search up Sean McVay and Les Snead's list for guys they would take at 104. Have them in their drunken hangout after the first round saying that Cole Strange from the Patriots was the guy they were looking at 104. Fine. Then at 63, they're like, oh, well, now we need to take a running back. So they take James Cook, who is famous for basically being Dalvin Cook's little brother, and he is littler.
Yep.
And he's closer to Devin Singletary's size, but he's not as fast.
He's not the thumper with speed they needed with Breece Hall. This whole draft was set up going to this point in time, and it felt perfectly. All they had to do was go, we'll take Breece Hall, running back Iowa State, and solve all of their offensive problems. And they couldn't address that one issue because they thought they had to have it.
Then they trade up in the third and take a linebacker who's close to 25. He's had a redshirt year, and in 2020, he only played like 7 snaps because he got injured in the first game. Wow, this makes sense. This is a good draft.
Now,
Bills are great.
I will tell you, the Bills drafted a player who I really love. The punter, Matt Ariza, out of San Diego State. He will be the next Pat McAfee going down the field and hitting people. He also happens to punt the ball 80-plus yards on multiple occasions.
Yeah.
In Buffalo, can you imagine what he's going to do with
kicker.
the wind?
Yeah. I mean, maybe he can actually kick it in the wind. Whatever. This was just... I know it's more of a fantasy football mindset, but... Man, I just think they messed it up. All right, we'll move on to 10 biggest draft surprises. My number one draft surprise, follow the quarterbacks.
Oh, the quarterbacks. What happened?
The over-under was 2.5. Wasn't that what it was, Seth?
I believe so. I don't do as much.
Who told you there's going to be one quarterback drafted in the first round?
Oh, is it? Okay.
This guy.
Oh, you're brilliant.
Of course, I had it being Malik Willis, not Kenny
Pickett.
Didn't you guys get Malik Willis?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Tennessee ended up getting Malik Willis in the third round.
And it's not Tannehill's job to.
Not Tannehill's job to mentor him.
What an asshole.
It's not, but it is.
He's a jerk.
Well,
that's a wide receiver in a quarterback's body, just like what
stop and
Tannehill
listen.
is.
Did you guys listen to the whole interview that Tannehill did?
Yes.
Okay, he's kind of. He's earned a pass for me for his statements about Malik Willis because I think he's going to come back and realize that Malik Willis, even though he's there to take his job, isn't going to take his job for 2 years. So Tannehill's going to be there for 2 years before he gets there. I think it'll be 2. Because I don't think Malik Willis will be ready to do that. But we'll see. But the quarterbacks fell. What amazed me the most was Desmond Ridder was the second quarterback taken off the board.
That didn't shock me as much. Because I feel like they drafted him in Atlanta because of his
competitiveness,
his attitude, and his leadership skills more than his ability.
And that might be it. And I agree. I love his competitiveness. I love the fact being that at Cincinnati, he took a lesser talented team to the college football playoff game, and if they would have been seeded fairly, they would have been the number 2 or 3. They would have been the number 3 seed, which means they would have still got thumped by Georgia. But man, he is competitive. His statement was, "I'm not leaving Atlanta until I win a Super Bowl." I'm going, dude. You're going to be 85 by the time.
Oh yeah, no kidding.
But I love the
Thank
competitiveness.
God Matt Ryan didn't say that.
Love the competitiveness, but everybody else. Matt Corral went in the 3rd round to Carolina.
They traded in for him.
The thing that amazed me the most, Seattle drafted nobody, just like I said they would, didn't I?
Yeah, I was a little shocked by that, but I think it was another one of those things that they weren't going to move anywhere. I was more shocked by them taking Kenneth Walker. What that tells me is that Chris Carson is done.
Yeah, and what I like most about you guys drafted Sam Howell, being the commodes.
Right.
And last year at this point in time, we were talking about Sam Howell being the 1st or 2nd pick in the draft.
Right.
So he's obviously talented, just had a bad year. Kind of like, who was the number 1 rated quarterback last year at this
Spencer
time?
Rattler.
Who's now at East Carolina?
Central Carolina, Coastal Carolina,
Someplace like that. Okay, number 2 here, the Eagles owned the board this year, and then they added A.J. Brown. And by the way, they have how many first-round draft picks next year?
They have 2 next year. So if Jalen Hurts doesn't work out, they're getting the new quarterback of the
to go
future.
and get who they need.
That's right.
Yep. Number 3, Jets and Lions trading up to get Jermaine Johnson and Jamison Williams.
You know, the Jets traded up for Jermaine Johnson, trading back into the 1st round. You know, it's amazing to see what can happen now versus 20 years ago. This would have never happened.
These drafts, these trades in division would never have happened.
Draft.
Yeah.
I mean, during the draft like this, they just didn't happen until you get into the 4th through 7th round.
Yeah.
And then people don't care. It's, go up and get him. And you don't hear of people having 3 first-round picks. Mm-hmm. You know, and really for the Jets, if one of these guys flames out, it happens.
Who cares? Because they have Breece Hall in the 2nd round to solve that issue for them.
Well, I mean, even if it's, whether it's Sauce Gardner, whether it's Garrett Wilson, whether it's Jermaine Johnson, one of them flames out, who cares? The other 2 will be good.
Yes.
And then the Lions, vandalizing the Minnesota Vikings and trading up and getting Jamison Williams.
And you know what the real key was in that trade? Was Detroit kept their 2023 first-round draft pick.
Oh, for sure. They traded a 2nd and both their 2nds, I think, right there at the top of the 2nd round.
And in doing this, Detroit reset the mindset offensively and defensively and gave Jeff Goff the most talented wide receiver that he's played with physically.
You know, I was just trying to think in my mind, I was going Rolodex of who is a free agent quarterback that could go there next year. I'm telling you right now, you put Lamar Jackson in Detroit next year with Jamison Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, TJ Hawkinson, and DeAndre Swift, Katie bar the door.
Mm-hmm. And
on turf 9 times.
Yeah, and defensively, they got
9 or 10 times.
They got Aiden Hutchinson, who's going to be the face of the franchise going forward until
killing people.
Comes in.
He's going to kill people. He is potentially the next TJ Watt.
I don't disagree with that. He is the Lions this year did a really good job of resetting their team and building it for the future. And Dan Campbell is the person to thank for that.
Yep.
Okay. The number 4 here, the fall of Nakobe Dean due to shoulder issues. That was a huge thing.
Again, where is the information on this? Because we're all sitting here watching. Well, why isn't Nakobe Dean in his pink gangster holster suit and his pimp hat still sitting there on the couch? Oh, come to find out, on Friday night, well, he's had a shoulder issue that he refused to get medically rechecked.
Mm-hmm. Number 5, Packers and Chiefs not addressing wide receivers until the 2nd round. But they both got impact players.
Maybe. I'm not sure about either of them yet.
I love Christian Watson.
I love his potential, and I want to see what Sky Moore looks like and how much he looks like Tyreek Hill. We'll come back with the bottom 5, and then we'll probably just go right into fantasy stuff.
Sounds
See you in a
good.
minute.
Keep the pest at bay, call TNT and we'll blow them away. For a pest-free home or business, you need the best. You need TNT, prompt and professional pest control with custom plans tailored just for you. Call TNT Pest Control at 209-9225.
Being a crack is one of the most overwhelming and terrifying experiences that you can have. You must then deal with the physical and emotional trauma caused by the accident. Spinal ligament injury is the #1 leading cause of pain and disability following a car accident. If you or a loved one have had a car accident, there's a high likelihood that you've suffered spinal ligaments injury. Here at Titan Medical Center, we specialize in detection, diagnosis, and treatment of car accidents. Call us today.
And keep the pest at bay, call TNT and we'll blow them away. For a pest-free home or business, you need the best. You need TNT, prompt and professional pest control with custom plans tailored just for you. Call TNT Pest Control at 209-9225.
All right, we'll jump back in here. We were just talking about, what's going to happen with Green Bay, Christian Watson. One of the things, I'm not a huge fan of Christian Watson. I think we'll get in there is just because first-year wide receivers don't really mesh with Aaron Rodgers in year one. Sky Moore, is that his name?
Yep.
Sky Moore that the Chiefs drafted. They drafted him to be the Tyreek replacement. I thought they already had that guy, McCole Hardman, but I guess we'll see. So... number 6, the other shocker that again came out of nowhere and apparently had been in the works since the end of the season when he requested a trade out of town, was the Ravens shipping Marquise Brown to the desert.
He was at the Cardinals draft party.
So what happened is Marquise Brown... What happened was Marquise Brown was in Vegas for the draft. And they about pick 12, they got the call and said, we're doing the trade. So then that's, about pick 17 is when we heard it. But at pick 12, they're sitting in the draft room, and Michael Bidwell, who's a pilot and flies the team plane, says, "Oh, he's in Vegas? Want me to go pick him up?" Sure.
I'll take the 30-minute flight, pick him up, have him meet me at the airport. We'll be back in an hour and a half.
I mean, how much more of a baller move is that? Oh, hey, Marquise, take the 15-minute cab ride down to McCarran from the Strip. The owner's going to pick you up on the private strip in the private plane and fly you back. Bet.
Yeah. Now imagine what's going to look for free agents next year and the treatment they're going to want from that. But Arizona had to do something because now other big news came out this week. DeAndre Hopkins,
PED suspension, which he was popped in November,
and they've been arguing about it till now, which means that Baltimore knew about it.
Okay.
Arizona knew about it. Baltimore didn't know, but Arizona knew about it. That's why they made the trade.
So it's 6 games. Mm-hmm. So this isn't the first.
No.
There's a 4 game that they negotiated away or something happened where he didn't serve it and it wasn't announced before.
Yep.
Because you don't go from 0 to 6.
Nope. Not unless it was a PED to beat his wife or something.
There's a bigger issue here, though. He was taking a beaver tranquilizer.
Is this dodgeball over again?
Well, first of all, my issue with this is
Janice.
There's multiple. It was a low grade
beaver tranquilizer.
So there's multiple grades of beaver tranquilizers. Am I the only one that's not skipping over the fact that we have a low grade beaver tranquilizer?
I have not
Why
heard
in the
this.
hell would you put that in your body?
I cannot verify this. I
have not heard anything about this till you just said this.
I mean, this is news to me.
He won't get the COVID shot, but he'll put a damn beaver tranquilizer in his body.
Okay.
Maybe Joe Rogan told him about it.
Okay, hold on. Speaking about beaver tranquilizers, Baker Mayfield still around. How'd you like that one?
Wow, that was a good one. That is not something that I would expect a doc to come up with. That's our next one. Baker Mayfield not traded. The deal was done, agreed to in principle between the Panthers and the Browns, but then it fell apart because the Panthers wanted him to pay more of the salary.
Cleveland, at this point in time, you're on the hook for the whole salary. You're going to be on the hook for the whole salary unless you find somebody desperate enough to take him during season when your star quarterback goes down.
Now,
face it, he's yours until next year at this time when he's going to be someplace else as a free agent.
Now, of course, they're trying to sell this that they may need him. And they may.
They're going to need him for at least 8 games.
They may need him, especially the big worry right now is MLB, Major League Baseball, just handed down a 2-year suspension for Trevor Bauer, who was acquitted and found not guilty of a sexual assault against this woman that he donkey punched in... Don't Google that. By the way, sorry, children of the world. Not guilty of a crime, not found civilly liable, but he's suspended 2 years.
There's another allegation against him that just came out. Unlike the 22 that Deshaun's got.
Deshaun has 22.
Yep. And so
what's the NFL going to do now?
that's the big question. What are they going to do? Because the precedent has been set by Major League Baseball to go forward.
Goodell doesn't care.
But Baker Mayfield, remember back when Drew Brees was the draft pick by the Chargers?
Yes.
And then 2 years later, after Drew Brees didn't play very well for 2 years, they traded for Phillip Rivers.
No, they drafted Phillip Rivers.
No, they traded for me. He was the fourth pick in the draft. They traded for him from the New York Giants.
Okay, they drafted him. They tried to play hardball with Eli Manning, and of course, when you play hardball with a Manning, you lose.
And then Brees goes out that year and just absolutely balls out and becomes Drew Brees that year. What happens if Baker Mayfield balls out and becomes Baker Mayfield that we expected 4 years ago when he was drafted?
They have 200 million reasons to get rid of him.
They have 231 million
Was.
guaranteed.
Okay.
192 million.
Speaking of teams that need a quarterback, the Dolphins.
They were down to 4 picks after the Tyreek Hill trade. Mm-hmm. They still need offensive line help and depth. Didn't draft any.
None.
They drafted Teron Armstead, who to my knowledge has not played a full season in his 6 or 7 years in the NFL. Maybe it's 8.
Yep.
I don't get it.
They drafted linebacker, wide receiver, linebacker, quarterback, Skylar Thompson out of K-State, round 7, pick 247.
Well, he's basically Tua. He can
Which
run.
He's Tua with a better arm.
Yeah, what?
He's Tua with a better arm.
By like 3 feet.
But it's still a better arm. Just because...
Wow. I don't think he's got a good arm at all. But
Skylar Thompson can barely throw the ball further than I can.
Oh, I wouldn't insult him that much.
No, it's bad. I've seen him firsthand.
It's not great, but I'm going, why would you draft a Tua clone just because he can throw the ball a little bit further and waste a draft pick? We need offensive line help. Why would you draft a wide receiver and 2 linebackers?
I don't know. I don't know why they would draft a wide receiver.
Here's
can't
the
answer
sheet.
that.
4 picks. I couldn't even find anybody on this thing that I thought might be a surprise pick that's going to be on their roster in 3 years.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not good.
Or even Seth could have been a GM for the Giants and done better.
Here's another one that the hype machine is really out there on because he's been featured on at least 2 different channels. What a great draft story this is. Derek Stingley at 3. Really?
He wasn't...
What's he done the past 2 years?
Yeah, when the draft came up, you and I both shocked because we're going the best defensive back in the draft is Sauce.
For sure, no doubt.
And they draft this guy, and as a Titans fan, I'm going, yay, way to screw that one up, guys, because he's not going to do anything again.
So the other thing they've shown on there in his draft story is not Leslie Frazier. Who's the coach in Houston? Lovie Smith.
Lovie Smith, yeah.
Lovie Smith is talking to him, and he's saying, hey, are you ready to travel with the number 1 on every play? Nobody, never in Lovie Smith's defense does a cornerback travel with the number 1s. It's Tampa 2. The guys play zone coverage. They play sides of the field.
Maybe Lovie's changing the spots. We'll see. To which every number 1 wide receiver that the Houston plays this year goes, Oh God, please travel with me, please.
Well, who are the number ones that they're going to play? So who's the number one with the Colts? Michael Pittman.
Yep.
Okay, who's the number one with the Titans?
Probably Bob Trees.
Traylon Burks. Traquan Burks.
It's
Traylon
hard.
Burks?
It's hard to pencil a rookie in at number one, but he's
Remember,
Traylon Burks should be.
Bobby Trees is coming off an ACL. Mm-hmm. And then Christian Kirk.
Yeah, well, he's getting paid like he's number one. We'll see.
I don't know. I guess you're going to look great covering those guys.
Yep.
And then number 10, the Giants cagily drafted Kayvon Thibodeau at 5, then took Neal at 7, which they wouldn't have been able to do backwards.
Correct. They took the defensive end because there was a run, and they knew at that point in time they're going to get one of the two big offensive tackles. So we'll take the defensive end, who's going to be a bust, by the way, at number 5, and then took the offensive lineman at number 7. I think Thibodeau's going to be a bust.
And then they can say just what they said about Evan Neal. Oh, he was our number 1 tackle.
Mm-hmm.
He was our number 1 guy, but we had to take it reverse.
Which-
they could have said the same thing about Ike Ekwonu. They could have said, "Oh, he was our number 1 guy."
Which
it didn't matter.
But by the way, they win the being the political correct in saying the right things by doing that. But Kayvon Thibodeau going to be a bust. Who he reminds me of?
Who?
The defensive tackle out of Ole Miss about 5 years ago. Can't be Robert Ninkiche.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I can't remember his name. He was supposed to be the next best thing since sliced bread. Fell in the draft, got picked up by Arizona at like number 32, 33, something
Late.
like that.
Yeah.
And haven't heard from him since. This is what he had the biggest question about him was his desire, which is the number one thing about Thibodeau.
Motor, right.
Yeah.
Okay, my bonus here is who did the Bears draft? Go on. I'll wait.
I'm going to have to look it up because I really don't know who they drafted. Give me a second here.
Nobody.
Are they even? Hold on. Here they drafted. Nope, not them. Oh yeah, still nobody.
Yeah. I don't know. They should have been in our worst drafts. I mean, they should have probably been even ahead of the Bills because you're not going to convince me that Justin Fields was worth pissing away the player they could have taken at. I can't remember if it was 5 or I guess 7 was
Number
their
7.
pick. Yeah. My double bonus. What about the NFC West? The Rams didn't pick until round 4, but they won the Super Bowl. I guess that's okay. The Hawks are comfortable with Drew Lock and Geno Smith.
Thus, by ensuring the number 1 pick in next year's draft so they can solve the quarterback issue.
Oh, I'm going to throw
Which is what I
up.
told you before the draft they were going to do.
The 49ers have signed Debo, still have Jimmy G. The Cardinals have to hope the schedule's easy for the first 6 without D-Hop.
Okay, let's talk about the NFC West for a second. Who's the best team right now?
Rams.
I had the 49ers the best team. The
It's
49ers
the Rams.
The 49ers didn't have to add very much. Now they did the Rams in order to be able to be successful because they are that well built of teams. Arizona, they're going to not be good. They have a huge issue at running back they didn't address.
No, they did. They addressed it with James Conner. What's the issue?
Well, James Conner's a great goal line back, but he's not a back in the middle of the field.
Oh my God, he's a back in the middle field. You didn't watch any Arizona games. I had him on my fantasy team. He was a monster.
And Seattle is sucking for whoever the first pick of the draft is going to be next year.
I'm not sure I can disagree with that. I just don't see how. I don't see how Seattle wins more than 4 games.
I had them go. I told them they're going to be the worst team in the NFL next year. You argued and said who was going to be?
It could have been the Jags. It could have been
Houston.
Houston. Atlanta. Oh yeah, Atlanta.
Do you still think that there's a team worse than Seattle?
Atlanta or Houston.
Oh yeah, for sure. Atlanta or Houston are way
Houston's-
worse.
I think they're going to both have more wins.
No.
Maybe the Giants.
No.
Giants are better.
No. Maybe the Giants are worse. They still have DK. For now.
For now.
If they trade DK, you're totally right. They're the worst team in the league.
No, who's going to throw the ball to DK?
It doesn't matter. Geno Smith can throw it to him. He scored like 3 touchdowns with Geno Smith.
But who's going to be besides DK? Who do they have?
Tyler Lockett.
I mean, are they going to bring
Rashad
Randy
Penny,
Johnson to retirement?
Kenneth
throw the ball
Walker
to him?
the third.
I said,
We'll come
who
back
do
with
they
our
have?
fantasy guys right after this.
Can't keep the pest at bay? Call TNT and we'll blow them away. For a pest-free home or business, you need the best. You need TNT, prompt and professional pest control with custom plans tailored just for you. Call TNT Pest Control at 209-9225.
Being a car accident is one of the most overwhelming and terrifying experiences that you can have. You must then deal with the physical and emotional trauma caused by the accident. Spinal ligament injury is the number one leading cause of pain and disability following a car accident. If you or a loved one have had a car accident, there's a high likelihood that you've suffered spinal ligament injury. Here at Titan Medical Center, we specialize in detection, diagnosis, and treatment of car accidents. Call us today.
Can't keep the pest at bay? Call TNT and we'll blow them away. For a pest-free home or business, you need the best. You need TNT, prompt and professional pest control with custom plans tailored just for you. Call TNT Pest Control at 209-9225.
Good job, Seth. Way to do your job. Okay, moving
Seth
on.
was busy checking his
Fantasy lineup.
his gambling addiction. So we're back. I'm going to list my top 5 most relevant fantasy options coming out of the draft, and I'll give you then what I think their dynasty ranking coming out of the draft would be. My number 1 guy, fantasy-wise, is Treylon Burks.
Woo! Tennessee did something right in your eyes.
He's my number 4 ranked dynasty guy coming out. So
Okay.
I think that there are players behind him in the seasonal ranking that will grow into bigger roles and become better overall players. But my basis for that, A.J. Brown as a rookie had 52 receptions for 1,051 yards and 8 TDs. So why not Treylon? He's bigger than A.J. Brown.
Because he had Corey Davis playing opposite from him, who took some of this.
He'll have Bob Trees, and he'll have Derrick Henry.
Yep, Derrick Henry is the reason why he's going to be this highly rated, but not Bob Trees.
Because A.J. Brown was number 10 in standard leagues, number 21 in PPR as a rookie. I think this is a perfect match. I think this is the numbers should be close to a duplicate.
Tennessee traded basically the exact same player for the exact same player.
They traded a 4-year, $100 million contract for a 4-year, $17 million
Five-year,
contract.
$27 million contract. Yeah, I don't disagree. I think Treylon Burks is going to be the second most impactful rookie fantasy player this year.
Let's run through my 5, and then we'll run through your 5, and we'll talk about them in comparison.
Okay.
Number 2, I have Kenny Pickett, who dynasty-wise I think is about number 10. He's drafted by the Steelers, a QB. I think he wins the job. I don't think they take a quarterback in the first round unless they plan on starting this guy. I'm looking at somewhere around 18 or 20 passing TDs, 3 to 5 rushing TDs, which is pretty equivalent to what Carson Wentz did in his last year in Philly when he was QB 22.
I can buy that.
I mean, I just think there's enough talent around him, and of course the defense,
It's going to be incredible.
and they're gonna have to throw the ball.
And they're going to have. He has a top 5. He has a top 5 to 7 running back,
Yep,
and he has a top 20, 25 wide receiver in Deontay Johnson.
I agree. I think he easily he's already way better than Mason Rudolph,
Oh yes,
and I think that Trubisky is the kind of backup that also kind of is saying, hey, be careful about doing this. You know, this is what you have to look for.
Trubisky has the scars that he has from being the starting quarterback in Chicago.
Absolutely.
That being said, Trubisky's now going, the hell did I sign here for?
Yep. My number 3 guy, Drake London. He's also my number 3 dynasty guy from the Falcons. Kyle Pitts finished about 36 in standard leagues amongst all pass catchers. Mm-hmm. Most pundits have London ranked higher and better than Pitts. I'm guessing his stat line could be similar as far as around 60 receptions, around 1,000 yards, but TDs, Pitts only had 1.
Yeah, Pitts was not a productive time.
I'm saying at least 6. probably 8. And if Matt Ryan was still there,
Be higher.
it'd be like 11.
Yep. I think that Atlanta, in drafting Drake London and putting him next to Kyle Pitts, has made both of them better. And I do believe that Drake London's a top 5 fantasy player, rookie next year as far as dynasty rankings go. We'll see what happens at quarterback, who wins the job, because if Desmond Ridder wins the job, his numbers are going to decline because he's not going to have the experience to read the defenses. But we'll see.
Maybe. We'll see.
Okay, your number 4?
My number 4 is Brees Hall, who is my number 1 dynasty player, which I'm sure breaks your heart to hear that.
Not really. He's going to be on my team.
Yeah. If he went to Buffalo, he's slam dunk number 1.
Oh, if he went to Buffalo, he's number 1 with the Bull. There's anybody else close?
Yeah. Yes, it's not even close. Just about anywhere else to me, he would be higher. Because they already have Michael Carter. He was number 30 and played in 14 games.
Who do they have?
Michael Carter.
Not going to matter.
Michael Carter is
Will be a
going to
good
suck
backup
out
player.
some of his time.
He'll be a great backup running back.
I understand that you think, I'm guessing right now that Brees Hall plays 2 out of 3 series.
I think that Brees Hall's going to touch the ball 25 to 28 times
No
a
way.
game.
No way he'll touch the
And
ball
the
that
Carter's
much.
going to touch the game somewhere between 5 and 10.
I would put 10 to 15 on Carter and 15 to 20 on Hall.
Wait
They're
till you
gonna.
see the talent.
I'm just telling you, they're not going to burn him out because they're not ready to compete yet.
We'll see.
They're a year away from being ready
don't disagree with that.
to compete.
Your number 5?
Jameson Williams with the Lions. So remember that Amon-Ra St. Brown set the fantasy world on fire late in the season. He just was started going off. Expect a repeat with Williams getting healthy later and the Lions still having to play catch up. I mean, they're still the Lions.
I agree.
They're not going to blow up and win
gonna be
12 games this year.
They're going to be in every game, but they're going to lose the majority of the games.
They were
Again,
in a lot of games.
They're going to be in every game this year. They're going to lose the majority of them just because they need that 1 or 2 extra players to get them over the hump, which they'll get in next year's draft.
Yeah, he's my number 2 ranked dynasty player. I think he can be a stud, especially in Detroit. Excuse me. I predict him to have roughly Amon-Ra's numbers, but more TDs, 90, 900 yards, 90 catches, 900 yards, 8 TDs.
Okay. Mine is obviously my first player, fantasy-wise, in this draft, Brees Hall. No doubt about it. I think Brees Hall is fantasy-wise. There's going to be about 6 fantasy players come out of this draft that are rookies that you can put in for your dynasty lineup for the next 10 years. I think he's going to be one of them. I think he's going to be the only running back
8 years.
out of this draft that does that.
6 to 8 years.
We'll see. Have you ever met the man?
I have not. I know he's from here.
He's going to be playing for the Jets, and the average lifespan of a running back is
His biceps are the size of your thighs.
That's
His
probably
thighs
true.
are the size of your chest.
That's probably true.
He's an absolute physical specimen who catches the ball out of the backfield, has very good hands, very good speed, and doesn't get blown up as far as running backs get blown up. He doesn't. So I've got him number 1. My number 2, Jameson Williams.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. From a physical viewpoint, he's the second best physical specimen of fantasy players this year behind Brees Hall. Number 3, Treylon Burks. No doubt. Going to the right system. 3 years from now, he's going to be the number 1 wide receiver in the AFC South. He'll probably be a top 8 fantasy wide receiver at that point in time. This year's numbers are going to be comparable to what you said with A.J. Brown's.
Yeah, A.J. Brown's, remember, A.J. Brown 2 years ago was like 1,200 yards, 11 touchdowns.
My number 4 is Chris Olave. He's in the system. He doesn't have to be the man because Michael Thomas is supposedly back. They didn't pay all that price to get him, not to use him. Number 5, Drake London.
Yeah.
I don't think that Drake London is a very gifted wide receiver who is smooth and fluid getting in and out of his breaks, which is exactly what you look for.
Yeah, and so I went through and listed a couple of honorable mentions here, guys that I thought about, but I just don't think that they will have enough of an impact this year. Sky Moore with the Chiefs. He is if we did TD only, he might be the rookie that scores the most TDs.
Oh, no, I think that's going to go to Christian Watson.
No. he's much more of a dynasty pick. Devontae had 3 TDs as a rookie. I didn't go back and find Jordy's, but if I remember right, it was 4. So, I mean, he's just not going to be there yet. I mean, it's not like Devontae. Devontae, once they got inside the 20, put a TD on the board.
Yeah, but you're gonna find out what a physical specimen Christian Watson is, and put him in that system where he's going to be the red zone target. He's going to have probably 8 to 12 touchdowns.
I'm telling you right now, Alan Lazard, if he plays all year, if he plays at least 14 games, will have 12 touchdowns.
Okay, put it on the board.
Put it on the board.
One of those things we got to come back and make fun of you later with, huh?
Absolutely.
Okay, man, you have your great fantasy your great dynasty stash is.
Well, one of them is Kenneth Walker the third, the running back out of Seattle. I think that this year,
Who played at Michigan State last year, correct?
played at Michigan State,
Who didn't do anything in the year before that where he was playing at.
right? Arguably, he is the best running back on a lot of people's boards.
He's a one-hit wonder who came out of nowhere to go to Michigan and happened to be there at the right time, the right place, right time for his talents.
So did Le'Veon Bell. He was pretty good for a few years. I think that Walker,
Le'Veon Bell was a much bigger player
well, he was much bigger coming out, but then he lost like 30 pounds,
because he had to for
and he became a lot faster and a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Kenneth Walker is already faster than Brees Hall.
okay.
So
Brees Hall's also twice his size.
I don't think he's twice the size. I think they're pretty comparable. We'll have to do the research, but I think they're about the same size.
I'll look
You got
real
it?
quickly.
Good.
Seattle. Let me look real quickly.
Okay. So I think he's a great dynasty stash. Rashad Penny is going to be given the opportunity to start this year.
Kenneth Walker, 5'10", 212.
Okay. Brees Hall from the Jets.
6'1", 220.
So 2 inches and 8 pounds.
No, 3 inches and 8 pounds. Much leaner, much taller.
Okay. I like my running backs shorter. I don't like them tall.
Really, I'll take Le'Veon Bell any day of the week when he was first 5 years of the year, which is what Brees Hall looks like.
All right.
Only more muscular.
Another great dynasty stash for me, Malik Willis. I think he's the starter next year.
I think he's a starter in 2 years.
I get it. I think that he's a great end of your dynasty draft.
I think he's a great pickup because what he got to lose, he's going to go to a situation where he has a all-star running back behind him, a revamped, rebuilt offensive line in front of him, a first-round draft pick, Bob Trees, and Westbrook Akina as the number 3 wide receiver. It's a lot of talent there.
I think it's that, and I know that you would love to hear this, but somebody brought it up and put up a side-by-side. I see Steve McNair.
Man,
Not as big.
well, there's a lot of difference between Steve McNair and Malik Willis. Steve McNair was not the most physically gifted quarterback there was. But Steve McNair had 2 things that most people don't have, and that's heart and leadership.
I don't know. I think this kid might have a lot of that too. We'll see.
We'll see.
Last but not least, Brian Robinson, running back out of Alabama. I saw him a couple of times on TV, watched a couple of his games, and I saw a not as fast, not as big Derrick Henry.
So he's not close to being Derrick Henry, but you think he's...
Well, he's not a runaway freight train like Derrick Henry is, who people bounce off of, but he's big like that. You know, he runs through the line and runs into people, and they bounce off of him in the secondary.
As I said earlier, the only running back out of this draft that I think is going to be an impactful player in the NFL is Brees Hall. And I'll stand by that.
Yeah, that's absolute silly talk. I think Brian Robinson, I think what ends up happening, Brian Robinson becomes the first and second down running back for Washington next year. Antonio Gibson goes to the J.D. McKissick role, and we let J.D. McKissick go.
Okay. We'll see. Now, you guys drafted a wide receiver as well.
We did. Jahan Dotson.
What'd you think?
I don't know. He's got playmaking ability,
Yeah.
but I mean, I've seen that in a lot of players coming in the league. I've seen that in Mecole Hardman. I've seen that in Bob Trees. They're great at the college level, and then they get to the NFL, and it's like, we're just not that good.
And we're out of here. We'll see y'all next week for the follow-up.
All right, we'll see you guys next
Be
week.
safe.
We'll have a few minutes of after show.
Wow. So why do you hate Breece Hall so much?
I don't hate Breece Hall. I hate
Not
the
what it sounds like.
situation he went to. I agree with you. He should have went to Buffalo. He should have went to Philly. He should have went to Houston. He should have went to the Patriots. He should have went to the Dolphins. I mean, there's
The Raiders.
The Raiders.
Josh Jacobs did not get his
didn't
fifth-round pickup.
That's right. I think next year then Breece Hall is a monster.
See,
I mean, imagine right now, with the way that Breece Hall can catch the ball, they line up in basically a 4 wide with Devontae, Breece Hall, Hunter Renfrow, Darren Waller, and Josh Jacobs in the backfield. What are you going to do?
See, that when Houston when they had the Smurfs and they did the run and shoot, they had Lorenzo Highsmith as the running back,
Right.
and 4 little guys who were quick and fast at the wide receiver. Who are you going to cover?
Right.
See, I don't understand why more NFL teams don't go to that mentality.
Because they don't have the trigger man like they had in Warren Moon to run that offense.
But
like
Derek Carr
could run it.
Derek Carr can run it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that I like Carr's release that well. I think Carr is better in that intermediate deep passing.
See, if I'm a head coach of a team, I'm gonna get an offensive line that pass blocks. I'm gonna get me a Breece Hall in the backfield, and I'm gonna find 4 wide receivers that run sub 4.40s or sub 4.540s with good hands that can run routes, and we're gonna go line them up and go, boys, and see what happens.
Yeah.
Cover me if you can.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I get it. And again, it's not that I don't like Breece Hall. I just don't like him going to the Jets. I just don't think he fit there.
There were better places for him to go than the Jets, but by game 3, we're going to be saying Michael Carter who?
Yeah,
He is
I
that
guess.
good.
I guess. We'll see.
What do you think, Shook? Tell us what you think about this online. You're the big Jets fan around here. Let us know.
I mean, if you're a Jets fan, you have to be over the moon about your draft.
In watching some of the texting back and forth people were doing with Mark Shook, with Shooky that night in Facebook, some of the things that were posted, Shook's ecstatic.
I mean, you want your team to use the draft board like that.
Yes.
I mean,
Which is what Philadelphia could have done, and they didn't.
I think they did fine. I mean, when you're talking, if you're telling me you're going to trade a first rounder and a third rounder for A.J. Brown all day.
Yeah, but they could have done so much more with all the picks they had.
Who the hell cares?
They could have controlled the draft like the Jets
they
did.
theoretically could have drafted players that may be as good in the future. Mm-hmm. Or they can get a guy who's a top 10 in the league right now.
I love A.J. Brown's pick, but what they could have done with all the first-round draft picks they had and all the other draft capital they had, they could have moved up and down the board and got better players than what they got. They did not use their draft capital wisely except for one pick.
They didn't have the base like the Jets did of 4.
Mm-hmm.
What was their ceiling? Maybe 11?
They could have, if they would have kept all 3 of them and not traded them to the Jets, which by the way, to the Saints, which by the way which is how you accumulate draft capital so you can control next year's draft.
Right.
But this year they had the chance to control it and kind of dictate who took where what, and they didn't do that. Like what the Jets did. Like what the Giants did.
Well,
The Giants
I don't think the Giants controlled a lot of stuff.
In the first round where they took the defensive lineman first and the offensive lineman second, they were guaranteed to get what they want, therefore they controlled who they were going to be able to pick. They could have traded down from 7.
Yeah, but they didn't control the draft from there. All they did
they could
was
have, because
they just took the
traded
players that we kind of expected off the board, the defensive end and the tackle.
But they could have if they would have been willing to trade more, which they didn't because they got the players they wanted. It's going to be interesting. Next week, we need to go back through and do 2 things, in my opinion. One is we need to go back through and re-rank our favorite teams in each division to win it and go down and then pick our playoff teams.
Okay.
Then we need to go back through and start readdressing our top 10 fantasy players in each one of the positions.
For sure. Yeah.
You want
Yeah,
to
that's going to be early too. I think it's the last week of the month. I think it's the last week of the month when the OTAs start. So we'll have a lot better idea June 1 of where things are going to fall out.
But no, it won't be next week. 2 weeks now we're talking about the schedule. Which, by the way, tell me, what other teams are playing? What other leagues are playing right now?
What other
sports leagues are playing?
Well, I mean, the NBA playoffs are on the TV
which are completely
right now.
secondary based upon the draft last week and the foreign games that were announced today.
Yeah. Now, one of the things, too, that we've had on the schedule to talk about and haven't been able to make it to over the past few weeks is the USFL. The USFL was week 3 last week and actually had their best week since opening week, killing their week 2 numbers while the draft was going on. And one other thing that we haven't talked about actually before is that the ratings are in their 3rd year of decline for the NFL draft. Mm-hmm. Why is that?
Because it's so damn boring.
Oh my God, it's the worst. Because they have to drag everybody and their family up there to have their picture and hug the commissioner.
It was a 3-hour-and-a-half draft. Literally, Detroit got in trouble for putting their pick in too early at number 2.
Right. They told him, hey, why'd you put it in so fast? Because the dude that we wanted was there.
Yeah.
We weren't going to trade it.
We've known for 6 months
it a
for the
production.
second pick.
Quit making it this big media production and give it back to us nerds that watched it, the people who made you popular. Give it back to us and get the damn thing over with in 2.5 hours.
You can still do some of your nerd stuff, but don't take 35 minutes per pick.
No doubt. There's no reason that they need that much time, and they damn sure don't need to take a break at 18.
When the pick is in!
And when the pick is in, and talk to us about the punt, pass, and kick leaders, or have the flag football captains from the kids' teams in Las Vegas. Nobody gives one shit about any of that stuff.
Yeah.
No national fan gives a crap.
What
they want to know is, who did Philadelphia pick?
Go back to what made this draft so wonderful to watch. Give it back to us in that format and quit playing this bullshit game you do trying to make money off of it when you're making handloads of money as it is. If you give it back to us football fans rather than the people you're trying to attract to the game, the people you try to attract to the games are you and I. We're already there. You know how you attract people to games? You attract our spouse. You attract their kids. You attract our cousins. You attract the other people around us who come to our house and watch football with us.
I guarantee you, nobody besides the people that they're sitting there with, their families, or the players themselves want to spend 5 minutes hugging and mugging for the camera. Nobody else wants to see that. It's like, oh, cool, look.
Oh, I forgot.
Kenny Pickett's, really happy he got drafted by the Steelers.
Who owns
That's
ESPN?
awesome. Disney.
Who overproduces everything these days.
Yeah, but it's not Disney that's doing this. It's the NFL.
And ESPN that would get the money back.
It's the NFL wanting to have this dog and pony show over what it really is an antitrust exemption.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you. Make it a 2.5 hour production. That way you start at 7:30, you're done at 10 o'clock rather than get done at 11 o'clock.
It could have been cut in half.
Oh, it could have been cut down to 2 hours.
And then you could have done like what NASCAR does and do a split screen, run your commercials, get your advertisers paid, and then go back and put the...
You could run the commercials around the whole screen all the goddamn time. There's just not enough going on with the NFL draft.
Quit overproducing this shit and just give us what we want. Quit holding us hostage for this other crap.
Stop watching and they will.
The ratings are going to continue to decline
That's why I didn't watch on
because
Sunday.
there's not enough action.
Saturday was I didn't watch on Saturday because that was my protest.
Because you sit there and the pick, like we did the whole
timed it.
live show, the pick is in.
And 8 minutes later, we finally get.
They go to 2 commercials. They talk to somebody who has nothing to do with it or some damn thing they want to promo, and then they give us the pick. so they can bring somebody up on stage.
Don't look at me hard
Again.
with you, dude.
Draftees, your families, I love it. I'm happy for you. Your guy got drafted into the league. He was told that he had to go play somewhere. He couldn't choose to do it. Awesome. Love it. You're going to get paid. But damn, it just takes so damn long.
Don't look at me to disagree, dude. We timed it. It was 8 minutes one time when the pick is in before the pick got made.
Yep.
Crazy.
At one point in time, we were 2 draft picks behind because on the clock, I noticed, had the team picking 2 draft picks later while they were getting ready to announce the one on the board.
Yeah. Just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, we got to get something changed on that. I would love to have some power to be able to change this, but it's just not going to happen.
Make it fun for us, the fans, not for your advertisers.
And you've got that captive audience there that are just hanging out and waiting and waiting and waiting
And
waiting.
And the size got smaller as the night went on because people got tired of waiting.
There's
Hold
other
on.
crap to do in
We've got to
Vegas.
talk about what was the best thing that happened in the NFL draft this last weekend.
It was over.
No. The Fitzgeralds.
The Fitzpatricks,
The
you mean?
Fitzpatricks, yep.
Oh, the jerseys.
The
Yeah.
Fitzpatricks.
Where they
There was a
all
whole
showed
clan
up.
of people showed up wearing the Fitzpatrick jerseys for all the teams he'd played with.
All 11 teams?
It was
14
awesome seeing them
teams.
walk in
What
with
is
that.
it? I forget.
I
Yeah.
think it's 14 now.
Yeah. That was very, very cool. That was out there I think it's out on Twitter and Insta, so you can see it both on both of those.
Okay.
All right, anything else?
Nope, we're out of here till next week.
All right. Peace out. See everybody later.